Meet Sir Justice, a devoted husband and a principal father, living what seems to be the perfect life with his beautiful wife, Mama Naomi, and their bright son, David. But everything changes when David begins to act strangely, by revealing unsettling cracks in their family's marriage. Strange phone calls, hidden secrets, and a growing sense of detachment that Sir Justice knew nothing about. If you were in Sir Justice's shoes, will you divorce your wife or intrigue into the matter? Stay tuned because you won't believe the shocking truths that come to light. But before we dive in, if it's your first time here, kindly subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next upload. Now let's dive into the full story. Sir Justice leaned back in his chair, surveying the neatly arranged dining table where Mama Naomi served dinner with her usual grace. The room smelled of roasted chicken and freshly baked bread, a comforting scene that masked the tension simmering beneath the surface. At 42, Sir Justice prided himself on being a dedicated school principal and a doting husband. But lately, something about his wife unsettled him, a faint chill in her demeanor, the way her warm smile seemed rehearsed. "Papa, can I have more juice?" Naomi Jr., their 12-year-old son, asked, his voice unusually subdued. Sir Justice handed him the jug, noting the boy's downcast eyes. "Junior," he said gently, "what's on your mind?" The boy hesitated, glancing at his mother. Mama Naomi shot him a quick, sharp look, her smile unwavering. "Nothing, Papa," Junior muttered. The tension in the room thickened. Sir Justice felt the first prickle of unease. He wanted to ask more but decided against it. He wasn't sure what he feared more, Junior's truth or the possibility that Mama Naomi might be hiding something. Later that evening, Sir Justice sat on the edge of his bed, absently flipping through a book while Mama Naomi brushed her hair at the vanity. Her reflection in the mirror was serene, her movements deliberate, but her eyes, they were elsewhere. "How was work today?" he asked, breaking the silence. She smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Busy as usual. How about you?" "Same," he replied, though his thoughts were far from mundane. As the days passed, the small moments began piling up. Junior's reluctance to speak freely, the late-night phone calls Mama Naomi dismissed as business, and the missing money from their shared account that she brushed off as a banking error. One evening, while grading papers in his study, Sir Justice overheard a muffled argument between Mama Naomi and Junior. His son's voice was pleading, almost trembling. "Why can't you just stop? Papa will find out." Mama Naomi's voice was low and clipped. "Don't you dare raise your voice at me, boy. I handle this family, not your father." The words cut through Sir Justice like a blade. He put down his pen, heart pounding. What was she handling that he didn't know about? The moon hung low in the sky as Sir Justice paced the length of his study, the argument he overheard playing on a loop in his mind. His thoughts churned with questions. What was Mama Naomi hiding? And why was Junior so afraid? The next morning, Sir Justice decided to observe more closely. At breakfast, Mama Naomi chatted about mundane topics, the price of groceries, a neighbor's new dog. Yet, her laughter seemed overly bright, as though she were masking something darker. "Junior," Sir Justice said casually, "how's school going?" Junior barely glanced up from his plate. "Fine, Papa," Mama Naomi interjected smoothly. "Junior's been excelling, haven't you, darling? Top of his class." Sir Justice noticed the slight flinch in Junior's posture, the way his hands tightened around his fork. "Is that right, son?" he asked, his voice steady but probing. Junior hesitated, then nodded quickly. "Yes, Papa." Later that day, while Mama Naomi was out, Sir Justice went to Junior's room. He knocked lightly before stepping in. Junior sat on his bed, sketching in a notebook. "Can we talk?" Sir Justice asked, sitting beside him. Junior's eyes darted nervously to the door. "About what, Papa? I heard you and your mother talking the other night." Sir Justice kept his tone gentle. "Is there something you want to tell me?" Junior's lips parted, but no words came. Tears welled in his eyes, and he looked away. "I can't, Papa. She'll get angry." Sir Justice felt a pang of guilt. What kind of father was he if his son couldn't confide in him? You can tell me anything. I'll protect you. Junior shook his head, his small frame trembling. You don't understand. Mama. She's not who you think she is. Sir Justice's chest tightened. What did that mean? But before he could press further, the sound of the front door opening echoed through the house. Junior's eyes widened in panic. Please, Papa, he whispered, don't say anything. That evening, Sir Justice couldn't shake Junior's words. His wife's warm smile and affectionate gestures now seemed like a facade, a mask hiding something sinister. As they sat watching television, Sir Justice casually asked, "How's your business going, Naomi?" Mama Naomi looked up, her smile never faltering. "Busy as always. Clients are demanding." Sir Justice sipped his tea, feigning nonchalance. "I've noticed some withdrawals from our joint account. Care to explain?" The question hung in the air like a thundercloud. Mama Naomi's expression froze for a fraction of a second before she laughed. "Oh, that. It's for some surprise renovations I'm planning. I wanted it to be a secret." Sir Justice nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. "A surprise. For me?" "Of course," she replied, leaning closer to plant a kiss on his cheek. Her charm didn't fool him. That night, Sir Justice checked the bank statements. The amounts were significant. Far too large for simple renovations. Where was the money going? The following day, he called his lawyer friend, Mr. Owusu, for advice. "Justice, if you suspect something, you need proof," Owusu advised. "Keep a close eye on her activities." Sir Justice started piecing things together. The late-night calls, Junior's fear, the missing money. He couldn't ignore it any longer. Later that week, while Mama Naomi was out, he searched her belongings. In the bottom drawer of her dresser, he found a small, locked box. Breaking it open, he discovered wads of cash, unfamiliar receipts, and a second phone he had never seen before. His heart pounded as he scrolled through the phone. Messages to unknown numbers spoke of secret meetings and large transactions. When Mama Naomi returned home that evening, Sir Justice's world had shifted. He knew the woman he loved was hiding more than just financial secrets. "Is everything all right, darling?" she asked, her voice as sweet as ever. Sir Justice forced a smile. "Everything's fine, Naomi. Just fine." But inside, he resolved to uncover the full truth, no matter the cost. The days that followed were a tense balancing act for Sir Justice. Every glance from Mama Naomi felt like an interrogation, though she seemed oblivious to his growing suspicions. His resolve to protect Junior hardened with each passing hour, but he knew he had to tread carefully. One afternoon, while Mama Naomi was at work, Sir Justice decided to search deeper into her past. Using the second phone he'd discovered, he scrolled through her messages and contacts, piecing together fragments of her secret life. A recurring name, Kwame, caught his attention. The conversations were cryptic, but they hinted at a partnership based on deception. "Did you move the funds?" one message read. "Yes," Kwame had replied. "We'll meet soon to finalize." Sir Justice's stomach churned. The woman he'd trusted, loved, and shared his life with was involved in something dark and sinister. Junior's timid knock on the study door broke his train of thought. "Papa, can I come in?" "Of course, son," Sir Justice said, quickly locking the phone away. Junior entered, clutching a small notebook. "I drew this for you." Sir Justice took the sketch and felt his heart ache. It was a picture of their family, himself, Junior, and Mama Naomi. But unlike the usual happy scenes, this one showed Mama Naomi with a shadowy figure looming behind her. "Junior," he asked softly, "what does this mean?" Junior hesitated, biting his lip. "That's Kwame. His Mama's friend. He comes over sometimes when you're not home." Sir Justice felt a chill run down his spine. "What does he do when he's here?" Junior shrugged, looking down. "They talk a lot. Sometimes they argue. Mama says not to tell you because you'd get mad." Sir Justice clenched his fists. anger and betrayal swirling in his chest. "Thank you for telling me, son. I promise I'll take care of everything." That night, Sir Justice watched Mama Naomi more closely than ever. She seemed perfectly at ease, chatting about her day as though nothing was amiss. But he could see the cracks, her quick glances at her phone, the way her smile faltered when she thought he wasn't looking. He knew the time to confront her was drawing near. The following evening, Sir Justice set his plan into motion. He arranged for Junior to stay with a trusted neighbor, ensuring his safety before facing Mama Naomi. When she arrived home, she greeted him warmly, but Sir Justice's stern expression made her pause. "What's wrong, Justice?" "Sit down," he said, his voice steady but firm. Mama Naomi's smile faded. "Is something the matter?" "I found your little box," Sir Justice said, placing the locked container on the table. "Care to explain?" Her eyes widened for a brief moment before she masked her shock with a forced laugh. "That's private, Justice. You had no right to go through my things." "I had every right," he shot back. "You've been lying to me, Naomi. About the money, about Kwame, and about what's really going on in this house." Mama Naomi's face darkened. "You don't understand. Then help me understand," Sir Justice demanded, his voice rising. "You promised me honesty, Naomi. Was that a lie too?" Tears welled in her eyes, but Sir Justice wasn't swayed. "What are you hiding from me? Why is Junior so afraid of you?" She stood abruptly, her voice shaking with anger. "You've been snooping around, accusing me without proof. If you loved me, you'd trust me." Sir Justice slammed his hand on the table. "Love isn't blind, Naomi. I deserve the truth." For a moment, it seemed she might confess. Her shoulders slumped, and her gaze dropped to the floor. But then, just as quickly, she straightened, her expression hardening. "You'll regret pushing me, Justice," she said coldly before storming out of the room. As the front door slammed behind her, Sir Justice felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. He knew this was only the beginning of a battle that would test the limits of his patience, his strength, and his love for his family. Mama Naomi's abrupt departure left Sir Justice in a whirlwind of emotions. He stared at the empty doorway, his mind racing with unanswered questions and fears for what lay ahead. That night, sleep eluded him. Every creak of the house sent his heart pounding, and the locked box sat on the coffee table, a silent testament to the secrets that threatened to destroy his family. Sir Justice couldn't shake the image of Junior's drawing, Mama Naomi with the shadowy figure. By morning, Sir Justice resolved to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. He reached out to an old friend, Inspector Bernard, who worked in law enforcement. After explaining his suspicions and presenting the messages he'd found on Mama Naomi's hidden phone, Bernard agreed to help investigate discreetly. "It could be nothing," Bernard cautioned, "but we'll dig into this Kwame and see what we find. Just be careful, Justice. If she's hiding something dangerous, confronting her directly could escalate things." Sir Justice nodded, grateful for Bernard's support. But the warning lingered in his mind. Later that day, as he picked Junior up from the neighbor's house, he noticed the boy's unease. "Papa," Junior said hesitantly, "is Mama okay? She looked really angry last night." Sir Justice placed a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "Everything will be fine, son. I promise to keep you safe." Junior nodded but didn't look convinced. That evening, Sir Justice received a call from Bernard. "We found something," Bernard said grimly. "Kwame has a record: fraud, embezzlement, and suspected involvement in a larger criminal ring. It's possible Mama Naomi is connected to his activities." The revelation hit Sir Justice like a punch to the gut. He thanked Bernard and hung up, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. As he prepared dinner, Mama Naomi returned home, her demeanor eerily calm. She smiled sweetly, as though the previous night's argument hadn't happened. "I'm sorry about yesterday, Justice," she said, placing a hand on his arm. "I was overwhelmed. Let's move past it." Her words were like honey laced with poison. Sir Justice forced a smile but kept his guard up. Of course, he replied, watching her every move. But beneath the surface, he knew the time for reconciliation had passed. The following morning, Sir Justice decided to test Mama Naomi. While she was in the shower, he placed a recording device in the kitchen, where she often made phone calls. Hours later, as Mama Naomi prepared lunch, Sir Justice pretended to leave for work, doubling back to listen from outside the house. The recorder captured every word as she called Kwame. "It's getting harder to keep up the act," she hissed. "Justice is getting suspicious. We need to move faster." Kwame's voice crackled on the other end. "Stick to the plan, Naomi. Once the money is transferred, we disappear. You just have to keep him distracted a little longer." Sir Justice's blood ran cold. The woman he had loved and trusted was plotting against him, and his family was caught in the crossfire. When he re-entered the house, Mama Naomi greeted him with a smile, her voice light and casual. "You're home early. Everything okay?" Sir Justice forced himself to play along. "Just wanted to spend more time with you and Junior," he said, masking his turmoil with a practiced smile. As the day wore on, he formulated a plan. He couldn't confront her outright, not yet. He needed more evidence, something that would ensure she couldn't manipulate her way out of accountability. That night, as Mama Naomi slept, Sir Justice gathered what he had: the messages, the phone calls, and Junior's testimony. He knew the risks of delaying action, but he had to be certain before taking the final step. The tension in the house was palpable, a quiet storm brewing beneath the surface. Sir Justice prayed for strength and clarity as he prepared for the battle ahead. The house felt heavier than ever, weighed down by secrets and silent battles. Sir Justice could barely meet Mama Naomi's gaze as she cheerfully prepared breakfast, humming a tune that grated on his nerves. Junior sat at the table, quiet and withdrawn, tracing patterns on his plate with his fork. Sir Justice's mind raced with what he had uncovered. The recording of Mama Naomi's conversation with Kwame echoed in his ears. Every word felt like a dagger, but he couldn't afford to let his emotions dictate his next move. He needed a foolproof plan to ensure his family's safety. Later that morning, under the guise of a work errand, Sir Justice met with Inspector Bernard again. He handed over the recording and detailed what he had overheard. "I need to protect my son, Bernard," he said, his voice strained. "This can't drag on any longer." Bernard nodded. "We'll move quickly, but we need more concrete evidence to link her directly to Kwame's illegal activities. Keep her talking, Justice. We're monitoring Kwame's communications as well. If she slips up again, we'll have what we need." Returning home, Sir Justice felt the weight of his double life pressing down on him. Mama Naomi's affection felt like a cruel parody now. Every touch, every smile, a reminder of the betrayal lurking beneath. "Justice, you've been so quiet lately," she said that evening as they sat in the living room. "Is everything all right?" He forced a chuckle, masking the storm within. "Just work stress. Nothing to worry about." Mama Naomi tilted her head, her eyes searching his. "You know you can talk to me, right? We're a team." The irony of her words stung. "Of course," he replied, swallowing his anger. Later that night, Sir Justice sat by Junior's bedside as the boy drifted off to sleep. "Papa," Junior whispered, his small hand clutching Sir Justice's. "Will things ever feel happy again?" Tears welled in Sir Justice's eyes. "Yes, son. Promise. We'll be happy again." The following day brought an unexpected twist. As Sir Justice sifted through the mail, he found an envelope addressed to him in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single photograph of Mama Naomi and Kwame, laughing together in an intimate embrace. The back of the photo bore a chilling message: "The truth always comes out." Sir Justice's heart pounded as he stared at the image. Someone else knew. But who? And why now? He tucked the photo away and resolved to remain calm. If Mama Naomi sensed his growing resolve, she might act impulsively. That evening, as they sat for dinner, Mama Naomi was unusually quiet. Sir Justice studied her, noting the slight tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted around the room. She was hiding something. Halfway through the meal, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her face tightening, and quickly excused herself. Sir Justice followed her silently, standing just outside the kitchen as she spoke. "Why would someone send that?" she hissed into the phone. "You said no one would find out about us." Kwame's voice was faint but clear. "Relax, Naomi. Whoever sent it is just trying to rattle you. Stick to the plan. Justice is clueless, right?" Mama Naomi exhaled sharply. "He doesn't suspect a thing. But we need to move fast. I can't risk losing everything." Sir Justice clenched his fists, every muscle in his body screaming to confront her. But he held back, knowing he needed to play the long game. When she returned to the dining table, he forced a smile. "Everything okay?" "Just work stuff," she said breezily, though her hand trembled slightly as she picked up her glass. That night, Sir Justice reviewed his next steps. The photograph and the phone call were the final pieces of the puzzle. He called Bernard, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "It's time," he said. "I have everything you need." "Good," Bernard replied. "Stay safe, Justice. We'll handle the rest." As Sir Justice hung up, he looked over at Junior's room, the sound of his son's soft breathing a balm to his frayed nerves. "It's almost over," he whispered to himself. But deep down, he knew the storm was far from passing. The morning dawned heavy with tension. Sir Justice sat at the breakfast table, his hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. Mama Naomi moved around the kitchen, her movements quick and mechanical, betraying her inner turmoil. The air between them buzzed with unspoken words. Sir Justice's mind reeled with the knowledge of the evidence he'd handed over to Bernard the night before. The weight of his decision pressed against his chest, yet he found solace in knowing he was doing this for Junior. "Justice," Mama Naomi's voice broke the silence, startling him. "Are you sure everything is fine? You've been so distant lately." He looked up, forcing a weak smile. "Just work stress. The usual." Her gaze lingered on him for a moment longer than usual. "Well, I'm here if you want to talk." He nodded, saying nothing. Inside, his thoughts churned. "If only you knew what I've uncovered," he thought, swallowing the lump in his throat. Meanwhile, Mama Naomi's phone vibrated on the counter. She glanced at it, her face betraying a flicker of concern before she quickly silenced it. Sir Justice didn't miss the exchange. By midday, the first cracks in Mama Naomi's composure began to show. Sir Justice found her pacing in the garden, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone. He watched from the window, his heart heavy. "She knows," he muttered to himself. "She can feel the noose tightening." Inside her mind, Mama Naomi was unraveling. The photograph and the cryptic message had thrown her into a spiral. Who could have sent it? What if Justice finds out? Her thoughts raced, each one darker than the last. Later that afternoon, she cornered Junior in the hallway, her voice trembling. "Junior, has your father said anything to you? About me?" Junior frowned, confused. "No, Mama. Why would he?" She forced a smile. "No reason, sweetheart. Just checking." But her question only heightened Junior's unease. That night, as Sir Justice tucked him into bed, Junior hesitated before speaking. "Papa, is something wrong with Mama? She's acting strange." Sir Justice's heart broke at his son's innocent concern. "Everything will be okay, son. Promise. Just trust me." That night, Sir Justice waited for the house to fall silent before making his move. The recording equipment Bernard had lent him lay ready on his desk. He knew Mama Naomi would make a call to Kwame soon. She was too shaken to stay silent. Sure enough, her whispered voice reached his ears an hour later. He crept to the door of her study, pressing the recorder against the wood. "Kwame, we're running out of time," she said, her voice laced with panic. "Justice is acting strange, and I can't shake the feeling that he knows something." Kwame's voice crackled through the phone. "Calm down, Naomi. He's probably just stressed about work. Don't overthink it." But what about the photo, she pressed. Someone else knows, Kwame. This could ruin everything. Stick to the plan, Kwame snapped. We're too close to let fear ruin us now. Sir Justice's grip tightened on the recorder. His jaw clenched as rage coursed through him. When the call ended, he retreated to his room, the recording clutched tightly in his hand. The next morning, Sir Justice sat at the breakfast table with a calmness that belied the storm within. Mama Naomi joined him, her face pale, her smile forced. "Good morning," she said, her voice a shadow of its usual cheer. "Good morning," he replied, his tone neutral. The silence between them stretched unbearably until Sir Justice broke it. "Naomi, we need to talk tonight. After Junior goes to bed." Her fork clattered against her plate. "About what?" "You'll know soon enough," he said, his expression unreadable. Mama Naomi spent the rest of the day in a haze of dread. She replayed every moment, every word exchanged with Kwame, every potential slip that could have given her away. When night fell, Sir Justice met her in the living room, the recorder in his pocket. As they sat across from each other, the weight of their shared silence pressed down like a physical force. "Naomi," he began, his voice steady, "it's time you told me the truth." Her breath hitched. I don't know what you mean." His eyes bore into hers, unflinching. "I know everything, Naomi. The lies, the betrayal, and the man you've been conspiring with." Her face crumpled as the truth she'd desperately tried to hide came crashing down. The tension in the living room was palpable, each second stretching into eternity as Sir Justice fixed his unyielding gaze on Mama Naomi. She shifted uneasily in her seat, her hands clenched into fists on her lap. The truth she had hidden for so long now stood on the brink of revelation. "Naomi," Sir Justice said, his voice low but firm, "don't insult me with more lies. I've heard your conversations. I know about Kwame." Her breath caught, and her eyes darted to the recorder he pulled from his pocket. The room seemed to shrink around her as realization dawned. "He knows." How much do you know?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Enough to understand that everything I've worked for, everything I've trusted, has been undermined," he replied, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "Now it's your turn. Tell me the truth, Naomi. Tell me why." Mama Naomi's mind raced. She considered denying everything, deflecting blame, but the evidence in his hand made it futile. Tears welled in her eyes as she began to speak, her voice quivering. "I never meant for it to go this far," she began, her words tumbling over each other. "At first it was just small things I thought would make life easier for us. Kwame. He promised me it would all be temporary. But then what?" Sir Justice pressed, his voice rising. "Then it spiraled out of control," she cried, her tears falling freely now. "Kwame said you'd never notice, that we could build a better future without you knowing. But I didn't realize. I didn't know how much it would cost us." The anger Sir Justice had held in check exploded. "Cost us? Naomi, you've cost me my trust in you, my peace of mind, and potentially my son's future. And for what? Money. Power. What did Kwame promise you that was worth destroying this family?" Her sobs grew louder, but she offered no answer. The weight of her silence confirmed his worst fears. Just then a voice broke through the chaos. "Mama. Papa." Both of them froze, turning to see Junior standing in the hallway, his wide eyes brimming with confusion and fear. "Junior," Sir Justice began, his voice softening. "What's happening?" the boy asked, his voice trembling. "Why are you fighting?" Mama Naomi rushed to him, dropping to her knees and pulling him into an embrace. "It's nothing, sweetheart. Just grown-up problems." Junior looked over her shoulder at his father, his small face pleading for answers. "Papa, are you mad at Mama?" Sir Justice's heart broke as he saw the fear etched into his son's face. He knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I'm not mad at you, Junior. But there are things your Mama and I need to work through." The boy nodded hesitantly, his trust in his parents evident even as doubt clouded his young eyes. When Junior was finally back in bed, the living room fell silent once more. "Naomi," Sir Justice said, his voice colder now, "this isn't over. I will deal with Kwame, and I will decide what happens next. But know this, whatever comes of this, it's because of your choices." Mama Naomi didn't respond. She simply sat there, her tears silently streaming down her face as she watched the man she once thought she'd never lose walk away from her. His back straight but his heart heavy. Here ends the story, but before you go, let's digest these lessons together. Here are the lessons from the story. Honesty is the foundation of trust. Deception in any relationship, no matter the intention, erodes trust and can lead to irreversible damage. The story emphasizes how Mama Naomi's dishonesty destabilized her marriage and created emotional turmoil for everyone involved. The truth always comes to light. Secrets and lies may remain hidden for a while, but they inevitably surface, often at the worst possible time. Mama Naomi's actions caught up with her, teaching that it's better to confront issues head-on than to bury them. Greed can destroy relationships. Pursuing material gain at the expense of honesty and family bonds leads to destruction. Mama Naomi's partnership with Kwame showed how greed can blind people to the value of what they already have. Children are deeply affected by family conflicts. The story highlights the emotional impact on Junior, who becomes a silent victim of the tension between his parents. This serves as a reminder to consider the well-being of children in familial disputes. Forgiveness is powerful but must be earned. While Sir Justice confronts the betrayal, the story underscores that forgiveness requires genuine remorse and corrective actions. Relationships can heal only when both parties are willing to work through the pain. Accountability is essential. The narrative shows that taking responsibility for one's actions is a necessary step toward resolution. Mama Naomi's partial confession is a start, but true accountability involves making amends and changing behavior. Communication prevents misunderstanding. Open and honest communication is vital in any relationship. Had Mama Naomi and Sir Justice addressed their issues earlier, the escalation of conflict might have been avoided. Trust is earned through consistency. Trust takes years to build and seconds to break. Sir Justice's reaction to Mama Naomi's betrayal illustrates that rebuilding trust requires consistent and sincere effort over time. Material wealth is no substitute for emotional security. The story reflects how focusing on financial gain over emotional bonds leads to emptiness and regret. True fulfillment comes from prioritizing love, respect, and loyalty in relationships. The power of listening to intuition. Sir Justice initially ignored subtle signs and his gut feelings about something being amiss. The story teaches the importance of trusting one's instincts and investigating concerns early. Thank you for watching the full story, but don't forget to share with your loved ones. We will love to see your comment and where you are watching from. Stay stunned for our next upcoming video. Good luck.